Hello, my name is Dale Neal, and I want to welcome you to this most important topic in the series we've entitled You Can Start a Business. I want to congratulate you if you've watched the first 8 programs in this series. You've almost made it to the end. Or rather, we hope, a new beginning of your business activities. For any of you who have just joined us, this series, You Can Start a Business, has so far covered 8 main themes, from the very basics of economic activity to the steps successful businessmen went through when setting up their own business. Our topics for this series are why go into business, spotting business opportunities, getting started, keeping going, first steps in marketing, managing money, organizing for growth, efficient operations and production, business ethics, and staying in business. Our aim is to help you get underway with your own business, to put into practice some of those ideas you've been toying with for too long. However good your ideas are, and no matter how well you have applied the principles described in this series, there is an essential ingredient without which your enterprise will not continue to be fruitful. This week we want to teach you one of the secrets of being a fruitful tree, consistently fruitful, with fruit that is good to eat. This secret is how we value ourselves and other people. Maintaining right relationships with people is the key to long-term success. This is done when we treat people in a moral and ethical way. As we go to Lawrence this week, I want you to realize that our values are the things we believe are important. They form the basis of our personal, ethical, or moral code. They determine what takes priority in our lives, what our priorities should be, and what values are important.
Hello again. It's good to be with you this week. And this time I want to start with some revision. We've come through 8 training sessions so far, but we need to look back at some of the earlier ones. In our second video, we showed that for a house to stand against storms and floods, it must have a good foundation. In terms of business, this foundation is right values. In video 4, we saw, for example, that money is not to be our ultimate concern. Riches and profit is not a good foundation. Our concern has been for a fruitful tree. What that means, I think we're going to learn more of this week. But keep in mind this idea of fruitfulness and a tree. Paul Tillich said that faith is ultimate concern, i.e. it's the things that are most important to us. So let's consider what should be our ultimate concern. What are the right values to undergird our house or our business? One is very clear. It is written, you shall love your neighbour as yourself. This means to treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself. That should be our main priority. Ultimately, all business is about relationships. Whatever you're doing, it'll end up involving people. Buying things from people, giving things to people, serving people in different ways. Therefore, we can say to start with that treating people decently and as we'd be expected to be treated ourselves is an absolute minimum requirement for being successful and effective in business. Any approach that doesn't aim to do this ultimately will fail or fall. But there's also a balance in this. Whilst my business activity is to express loving service to my neighbour, that is, using my skills, my talents, yours, to serve your neighbour as best you can, we're not to do that to the extent that I myself am not loved. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that we shouldn't be working so hard to serve our neighbour or make money. Unfortunately, as so often happens, we actually damage ourselves, our own health, or those of our family.
My name is Kim Cross. I'm one of the 2 joint managing directors of Multiple Listing Services Limited. In a company the size that we are, I know that everybody is gauging my actions to my beliefs. And I know that my actions, in large part, are going to fall way below my beliefs. But it's how I handle that, I think, and my expectations of my employees as well as my expectations for myself. And if there's a continuity between those two, both my partner and I try to be very even and very fair, both with our employees as well as with ourselves.
So, number one, ethical law, and this video this week is mainly about business ethics or ethical laws, is to see people as our priority. Not just those we trade and work with directly, but awareness too that our business is contributing to wider society. There's a bigger picture, and we're just playing a part. The term neighbour means the whole world. We need to think about what are the knock-on effects of our business activity. How is that influencing other people? Clearly factories need to think about pollution, maybe smoke or waste products or effluent that they give out. How is that going to impact those that live or work near to them? That is just one simple example. You could think of examples also from farming and so on. Essentially, we have to think carefully about this world that we have and do our best to look after it. All of this is loving our neighbour.
The question is, how practical is all of this ethical talk? Is it pure idealism? Does it really work? The ethical or moral dimension of life has been stated as standing in permanent relations of trust. Clearly, as one person ceases to be trustworthy, the relationship of trust collapses. The forces for destroying human relationships are everywhere. This being the case, we must turn to the only antidote. There is no other glue to hold society together. This antidote is the sometimes overlooked forces of morality.
Long-term economic stability and growth is rare. Where it has been seen, there's always been a very strong ethical and moral component in that society. Ethics provide for permanent relationships between people, relationships which could actually stand in mutual trust. This means keeping promises, loyalty, counting on others. Once keeping promises and loyalty is destroyed, society has nothing to hold it together. It starts to fall apart.
So this brings us to ethical law number 2, the principle of free choice.
The tremendous thing about these ethical or moral laws is that they're entirely within our own control. We might be mistreated by others. Indeed, I'd say you almost certainly will be mistreated. But it remains within your control. You're entirely free to choose not to respond in the same way. Man has been designed for self-government. He's not designed ultimately to be controlled from the outside. We're designed to have freedom of choice so that we choose to do what's right in different situations. This is why I'm saying that these ethical laws are entirely within our control. It's our response which is important rather than what actually happens to us. For the good of society, of course, some sort of external control is necessary because not everybody is going to apply that individual or self-control. So that laws in society are required to control those who consistently rebel, cause trouble, thieve, murder, and so on, other types of crime. Man's soul consists of 3 parts. We have a will, that's our freedom of choice. We have a mind, and we also have emotions. We feel about things in different ways. We may think all sorts of wonderful thoughts, have beautiful feelings, but if we never choose to use our will to act on these things, they remain just ideas in our mind or feelings in the chemistry of our soul. Let me give you an example. I might hear from my friend that there's a sale of shoes going on downtown. So that idea comes into my mind. It would be good. I could need some new shoes. I should go downtown. But if I just remain sitting watching the television and never actually get up and go downtown to buy those shoes, I'm never going to have them. So that's an example of using our will. There's the idea there of an advantage, a possible benefit by going to buy some cheap shoes. But if I don't use my will to apply it, nothing happens. Having established two fundamental principles, and fundamental means something that's absolutely firm and solid we can build on. The first one is treat others as we'd like to be treated ourselves. And the second principle is we need to aim for free choice within some moral or ethical guidelines. Now let's move out and have a look at some entrepreneurs, some people who are running businesses and seeing what values they believe are really important. Remember what Paul Tillich said? He said faith was that thing which we gave the highest priority to. So let's see what some of these people who are effective in running business treat as their highest priority in terms of ethics and moral questions.
My name is Gunnar Olsson, and I'm the owner and chairman of Alpha Pack. And this is my son, Mats, who is the controller and in charge of all the developments and exports of Alpha Pack. Mats, we have said that Alpha Pack has grown from virtually nothing to a leading position in its specific niche.
Yes.
And is today a corporation with many employees. What would you deem is the most important aspect in the area of integrity and morale to keep good relationships with our customers and other relations in the company? What are the key aspects?
Well, we have felt that creating a positive working environment for our employees is a critical issue because that creates a friendly atmosphere to work in. And that, in turn, stimulates a creative process in the company where the employee feels that he is working towards a goal together with his colleagues and not in opposition to the management. And this, of course, benefits our customers because we can be competitive and also provide good quality products.
So what you're saying is that a friendly atmosphere, a team spirit, helps in the productivity of the company.
Compared to other ways of management, I would say that is, in the long run, the most efficient way to run a business.
My name is Pat Kellard, and I'm the founder and managing director of Blakell Europacer Limited, which is a small group of companies that manufacture high technology products for the electronics industry. Everybody here is part of a team, and I make it my business to speak to everybody that I employ every day that I am on site. It would be rare for a day to pass when I'm on site that I wouldn't speak to everybody from the man that sweeps the floor, every person individually, right up to my general manager. That would be an unusual day. I like to meet them, talk to them. We may talk football, we may talk weather, we may talk health, we may talk holidays, we may talk business. But the value of the team cannot be underscored, very highly underscored. Now, from my own point of view, I go back to when I was working for somebody else. And it was wonderful to be appreciated, and then it was wonderful to be empowered. And I'll never forget as a young man when I was number 4 or number 5 in the pecking order, but I was given responsibilities that were beyond what I was being paid for and beyond what I was being expected to do. That I liked. And that was probably part of the training that was drilled into me, which helped me in the starting up of our business. It was invaluable. I never complained about doing more than I was being paid for. And I never complained about doing work which senior people could have and should have done, although that was the case on a number of occasions. I embraced those opportunities because I knew that my boss was recognizing in me a potential that he could trust. The way in which we operate as a company here is that if you give somebody a job to do, you empower them to do it.
My name's Lorenzo. I'm the Managing Director of City Software. The company began 5 years ago and has grown to be the largest mail order business in the nation. A key principle in our business is to do what you say you'll do. It's amazing how many businesses they don't do what they say they'll do, and it wrecks your credibility. If you do what you say you'll do, your suppliers will believe in you, your customers will believe in you, and they'll have trust in what you do.
The first question we've been asking is, what values do you see as foundational to your own business success? Could you give us some examples of things that work in practice? Well, there are many. Probably the most important one, the one that everybody mentions up front, is humility. That's avoiding arrogance, having an attitude of being willing to learn. A second one would normally be loving your neighbour. Practical ways of doing this are obviously staying close to your customer, understanding what their real needs are, and in that way we can serve them more effectively. And probably the third area that comes out most commonly is that of integrity or honesty. We need to be honest with the legal authorities regarding our taxes and all these other things, but also with everybody else we deal with, because that builds trust. We also have to be honest in terms of admitting mistakes when we do something wrong. Paying people what they're due and paying them on time is another important factor when it comes to integrity. Not hanging on to the money so you can make more interest in the bank. What we need to be sensitive to is anything that damages integrity. It stops things holding together. Whilst business growth is a healthy expectation, we're all looking for that, we shouldn't be so pushing for it that it damages our own personal health, family relationships, and so on. Integrity would show a balance in these things. We need to think last of all in this section a little bit about what it means to lead others, manage others, or have responsibility for the work of others. In this area of leadership, a saying comes to me which is both amusing but sadly often true. What you are speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say. That's a common saying in business circles. In other words, if people are going to follow us, it's very important we think more about what we do rather than what we say. So leadership, certainly servant leadership, which we talked about in video number 7, is mainly about serving those that work with us in practical ways. We can do that by helping them prioritise, helping them understand what the most important things are, particularly in relationship to their work, to help them set clear goals, because this will give them a sense of progress and personal development. We can also encourage initiative and reinforce their progress through encouragement in different ways. As a manager, there might be certain issues or problems which stop somebody progressing, and if it's possible to get that out of the way, then we should try and do that. In other words, we're all the time trying to see opportunities for growth and development in those that work with us, and providing an environment within which that can take place. And finally, most of all, we need to observe when there is growth and development and reward people and thank people for that.
This subject is almost endless, but could you recap some of the most important issues of this week's message?
The purpose of a fruit tree is to produce fruit. By examining our values, we've been saying that these are the things that I think are important. This is what I want my business activity to produce. Getting right values means we start to think more about what my business is going to produce in a whole variety of ways, not just in terms of money. If I think about my own business, what sort of fruit has it been developing? I was very encouraged. A few months ago, I was running a training program for a very large company in the UK. And when everyone was leaving, one person came back at the end of the program. And they said to me, "There's something different about you." He said, "You care." And that really encouraged me, because it was just a normal program in many ways, a normal business training event looking at project management. But the fruit that I'd wanted to see Whereas in some way people would understand there was that sense of caring for them or loving my neighbour. That was coming out through the business. And for myself, that was more important than necessarily the money or the profit that came out at the end of the day. So, all this thinking about fruitfulness, rather than maybe the traditional products of a business, just being focused on money or other apparent aspects of success, causes us to rethink in many ways what we're doing. Sorting out my ethical priorities has opened up my thinking about work. It's given me a whole new set of criteria for measuring success. What is probably most important of all is that it sheds new light on motivation. What is it that drives us? What are we trying to achieve? Management's not about bullying people, pushing or frightening people into doing a good job or performing. There's a much healthier way, and that's what we've been trying to explain this week. A way where they choose, they make an individual decision to do their best. And that is the highest in terms of their own dignity too. So work performance is based on self-respect, mutual respect, rather than fear. Remember the diagram that Dale told you about with these two opposing forces, fear on the one hand, love on the other. People may say this sounds wonderful, but it sounds rather idealistic. In one sense it is. But there's nothing wrong with ideals. We need them. They tell us what we're aiming for. What goes wrong is often we lack the wisdom. We don't understand practically how to put those ideals into practice.
Speaking of wisdom, one of my favorite writings states that wisdom is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, and without hypocrisy. The key to wisdom, as I understand it, is the possession of knowledge with the practical ability to apply it. What practical steps can you suggest toward these ideals?
First, you must make these values your own. You must believe yourself if you want others to believe. But living a sound value base yourself, letting others know what you expect is not enough. You also have to inspect what people do. Our faith in the ideal must be balanced by the fact that human nature is flawed. People try to cheat us. Therefore, within the business environment, we've got to consistently monitor performance, both for the good of our business and the people involved. As the proverb says, timely advice is as lovely as golden apples in a silver basket. And a rebuke to a man of common sense is more effective than 100 lashes on the back of a rebel. In other words, correction is needed. It's beautiful, valuable, and effective when it's appreciated. So the key is our ideal set of values, followed by practical inspection of reality, and then followed by any corrective or follow-up action. It's like climbing a very high mountain. The way to our goal or our ideal will be through valleys of difficulty, but we shouldn't give up on the goal.
Week after week, we've challenged you to do something. Take a step and put into practice the principles we are teaching. This week's challenge is the biggest one you've faced yet. Go and be a leader. Put these values into practice. Start to live by them. There's no doubt that individual conduct is the basis for inspiring the finest thinking and practice on the part of others. Your business may employ no one but yourself. Your turnover may be the smallest in your town. It really doesn't matter. You still can be a market leader, leading by your value system. Don't just do a job today. Make a difference. After being in business for over 30 years now myself, I feel qualified to say that this subject of ethics is the most valuable topic in the series. Please allow me to invite you to join us one more time as we discuss the important aspects of staying in business. See you next week. Bye.